Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. May I have your attention, please? I'm Sun Bin Hong, announcer at MBN. It is a great honor to be your host for this session. We'll now begin the open session titled Digital Social Innovation. Ms. Jennifer Moon, Chief Anchor and Chief Editor of Ari랑TV, will start the session, so I'll lay further instructions to our moderator. Please welcome Ms. Jennifer Moon with a big round of applause.
Thank you. Now, today in September 2020, the coronavirus crisis has drastically altered the way we live, we work, we learn, the way we interact with one another. Even the least tech-savvy have been forced into digital transformation as in order to work, in order to keep learning, in order to stay in touch with our friends and family, all the while keeping distance, all the while avoiding physical contact. But more than ever before, people have been, as we adapt to new circumstances, they've been forced to, or they've been galvanized into action, sparking new ideas and entrepreneurship on new platforms. And for social digital innovation, the coronavirus crisis has served as the unexpected crisis, opening up new opportunities. But well before the COVID-19, well before the pandemic, at the forefront of the digital transformation of one European nation that's been leading global digital competitiveness and improvements in innovation indices was Cedric O, the digital minister of France. Not only is he determined to transform his country into a digital powerhouse, but he's resolved to do so and make this journey, leaving no one behind along the way. I'm Jennifer Moon, Principal Anchor and Chief Editor of ArirangTV, and this is the 21st World Knowledge Forum's open session on digital social innovation. And I am delighted today to introduce to you Cedric O, the Minister of State for Digital Affairs for the French Republic. So let's meet him, and how fittingly in this time of COVID-19 via video conferencing. Minister Cedric O.
Hello everyone. I'm really happy to have the opportunity to take part to that event today, and I really want to thank the World Knowledge Forum for this invitation, which gives me the opportunity to be with you today and to take part to that key gathering. Well, I wanted to share a few thoughts with you about how we see in France the challenge that are raised by digital just after the COVID crisis. We are still in the middle of the crisis, but well, let's say that the confinement period have taught us some lessons. The first lesson that we have taken is the fact that digital has become a key, backbone of our society and our economy. It was true before the confinement, but this is even more true. And there has been an acceleration of the speediness of the spread of the digital all over the society. This is true in economy. And what we've seen is that the big tech giants and the digital companies have become more and more powerful and have been strengthened by the confinement period. This is a challenge for a lot of countries, but especially for Europe, because as we all know, today, the economy and the digital economy is dominated by two giants, which are the US and China. So we have to foster our economy, we have to foster innovation, we have to make new champions emerge in France, which is something that we have been laying the emphasis on for the past 3 to 4 years, and we want to be able to be at the table of that discussion around innovation. This is true about startups, this is true about technology, and this is why we need to invest, but I think this is a global challenge in key and critical technologies such as AI, quantum computing, or cybersecurity, and a lot of others. There is an ongoing competition in digital that forces us to foster the investment and the development of our ecosystem in technology. This is the first issue. Second issue is much more a social and a societal issue. the digital has become, especially in the confinement, the backbone of the way our societies, our economies, our relationship, our day-to-day relationship are working on. And this is really true, and this is what we have been feeling in our flesh, to say so, during the confinement. Because the confinement was bearable because there was digital. Everything was digital. The going to work was digital. Being able to shop was digital. Being able to keep in touch with one's relatives was digital. Being able to have access to any information was digital. And this is something that has been reshaping our societies and our economies, and that we have to build up. On the first hand, because, and I was mentioning the economical challenge, we have to adapt our economies and the way our companies are working to that new world. On the second hand, because there is something that was very difficult for many people, and I just want to mention one figure so far, which is that in France, today, in 2020, there are a third of the French people that are lacking basic knowledge in order to be able to be autonomous in a digital world. They don't know either to create an email address or to be able to go to their bank account online, or even to turn on a computer. And there is a digital divide that is widening the gap in terms of social divide and in terms of difficulties in part of the population, especially in the Western world. And we have to be able to manage that divide. We have to be able to close the gap and to take those populations to teach them how to handle digital, how to behave in a digital world. Otherwise, we will have a growing fear and a growing anger that will add to other growing angers, such as the one that we have been encountering in the previous years. I'm thinking of what happened with Brexit. I'm thinking of what happened with the Yellow Vest in France, but also what we saw in Latin America or in the US, and so on and so on. We have to be able to ensure our people that everybody is on board, and that the digital revolution, the digital disruption, is not putting them aside and going on that way without taking care of them. And this is, I think, truly the role of the state, which has also been emphasized during the confinement, with the ability of the whole Europe, for instance, to be able, with its social system, to take care of its citizens. So I think that we have to manage that tension between innovation that we have to foster, but also being able to keep everybody on board and to ensure our citizens that we will take care of them in that digital world. And this is a tension that was already existing before the COVID crisis, before the confinement, but which is all the more, accurate and difficult to handle now, because during the confinement, it was, so to say, pretty easy to live for people that were connected, but a terrible nightmare for the ones who are not connected. And this is a challenge that we see, I think, as developed countries, as Western countries, but also all over the world, that we have to handle and to be able to cope with as public servant and as government and public services.
Well, thank you, Minister. Oh, so I have a couple questions regarding what you just said, as well as on some of the key policies and key points that you've been emphasizing all throughout your couple of months in the government. You prioritize the development of the ecosystem for digital technology, as well as the access for online public services for all, and the regulation of online platform as key to digital transformation. Of course, in this time of the pandemic, it's become more pertinent. The pandemic, I think, has brought, for better or worse, a disruption in the analog connectivity, an increased web traffic. It really begs for a digital platform to serve as a better, I suppose, better connectors or matchmakers. what we've also seen in the past months is a spike in the demand and supply of digital platforms without outstanding stimulation. So going digital, especially at times of pandemic like these, of urgency, mitigates the challenges of orchestrating the two sides of the market, being the supply and demand, and set to take the advantage of this outstanding stimulator society are the highly ambitious, extremely ambitious entrepreneurs. Minister O, you've been a huge ally to France's startups, bubbling startup ecosystem even before this COVID-19 and all throughout the pandemic. Number one, does this online shift level the playing field for the startups, and where does the current platform stand in playing favor to such startups, and are there any challenges that remain as obstacles for these startups?
The COVID crisis and the confinement period especially have been bringing about a dramatic increase in the speediness of the digitalization of the society and the economy, and especially in three regards. The first one is obviously the startups. Yes, the world was even more digitalized. Our day-to-day behavior, our day-to-day consumption, our day-to-day work habits have all been digitalized. So it has been accelerating the market share, to say so, of the French startups. This is true all over the world. We saw a huge rise in the market capitalization of the big American tech giant, but as far as the French startups were concerned, it raised the bar, and we saw big increase, for instance, in the turnout of marketplaces or e-commerce startups, or all the startups that are linked to the digitalization of the economy. So that was really a favorable situation for them. There was another shift, which I think is much more systemic, is even more systemic. It has been accelerating the consciousness that the legacy, all the French SMEs, all the French big companies, and the network of the French economy had also to be at the right level of commitment in terms of digitalization. And I think that this is the biggest change, and that for each French SMEs and each French store in middle-sized cities, or this kind of companies that were not really at the right level of commitment in terms of digitalization, it appears bluntly that they had to change. And I think that this is a huge traction for us in order to house the legacy economy to digitalize. Last consequence was on the society. I mentioned the issue about the disconnected and the people that has no connection or no ability to be able to manage digital tools, and this is why I think it is the third issue, that it was obvious that now the state have to raise its commitment in order to keep everybody on board, I said, and to be able to first to connect the whole country, and to bring both the connectivity, but also to help people know how to use the internet and computers basically.
Well, part of that government efforts by the French government, you spoke about the 7 billion euro government stimulus going towards all things digital, from startups to infrastructure investment to and everything digital transformation. How do you see this new investment this plan setting out for the next 2 years of the French digital transformation, contributing to the tech ecosystem over there?
So we just announced, the Prime Minister and the Minister for Finance and Economy just announced a stimulus plan in order to recover from the COVID-19. So the plan is 100 billion euro big, and among those 100 billion, there are 7 of them, 7 billion, which are really focusing on the digital ecosystem and the digitalization of France. there are three main pillars. The first one is about strengthening the French ecosystem, the French tech, as we call them, by investing in startups, but also by structuring some national strategies in key and critical technologies such as quantum computing and or cybersecurity or AI or biotechs. And we want in the 2 coming years to invest a lot of money in order to be able to be on par with the best in class all over the world in those technologies that we think will be critical in the coming years. Second pillars is about what I said about closing the gap in terms of digital divide and digital gap. And this is true as far as infrastructure is concerned. We want to make a huge push in infrastructure, in digital infrastructure. And this is true about as far as being able to use and to get accustomed to digital tools in a world that is more and more digitalized is concerned. So we will be putting 500 million euro on those goals, and we hope that this will help us make the society come together. Last part, which is last but not least, is about digitalization, both of the state, of the SMEs, but also of local authorities. We know that at some point we are on some of these issues a little bit lagging behind, and if you want to go with the society, to accompany the digitalization of the society, obviously the state cannot be behind, and the same goes for the legacy SMEs, the legacy economy, but also of local authorities. So we have to make a huge push on those points. So those are the 3 main pillars. We want also to invest in training, because we need more people trained, because we are lacking in terms of workforce. And so this is, well, basically what it will look like. Those are 7 billion that we have to spend in the 2 coming years. So now we have to do it.
Definitely, we hope so too. Now, I want to talk about privacy concerns, which cannot be avoided when we talk about digital transformations. When COVID-19 broke out early this year or late last year, mobile app developers rushed to develop different kinds of tracking applications. Now, France, instead of submitting to Google and Apple as they pushed out tracing architecture on global levels, assembled a group of their own research labs, big corporations, and startups to build an alternative software called Stop COVID. Unfortunately, France was not so successful in adapting this Stop COVID virus tracking app. And if I could talk about South Korea a little bit. South Korea, the first map application, if I remember correctly, was developed by a college student back in end of January. It went viral, to be followed by a number of others by fellow students. Now, these apps would track and publish routes taken by infected patients using different color circles. And then later, this would go on to show mask availability when at drugstores as people scrambled for face masks. Now, this same centralized system is taken over by the Ministry of Health and Welfare. It now sends out location-based emergency messages, as well as providing self-quarantine apps. Despite how useful, how informative these coronavirus tracking apps have been, privacy concerns, of course, remain unavoidable. The issue of privacy seems to be one of the biggest obstacles as the tech ecosystem expands overall. I'd love to find out how you feel about how you see governments, tech industries, individuals finding common grounds on policy and regulations around this issue. And then there's this, pressing issue, of course, or question of how sustainable this new digital platform is. The COVID-19 pandemic, we all hope that will come to an end. And how do we ensure that this rapid digital adoption driven by COVID-19 will continue into recovery and beyond?
I think this is the first time that we've ever seen technology playing such an important role in societal challenge, and this was the COVID-19 pandemic. So we used technology to track people, we used technology to better understand the disease, for instance by using AI, and this was the case all over the world. We tried to leverage technology in order to fight the virus better, and I think that there was some failure, but generally speaking, the feedbacks were really good. So, as you mentioned, we designed in France our own contact tracing app that was not as successful as in Germany, for instance, but so as successful as in Italy. And this case is interesting. I do believe that we were right to develop our own contact tracing app because I think that healthcare policy should remain in the hand of government and not an elected and democratically elected government, and not remain in the hand of private company. But this is a whole another debate. What is interesting in this debate around contact tracing app is that I think it embodies, especially in Europe, because the same it did not go the same way in Asia. It embodies the tension around technology that is used by people, but that can raise a lot of questions as far as its use is concerned, as far as the implication of the government, the commitment of the government is concerned. So I think that the main takeaway that I have from the debate around contact tracing app is that we have to continue to explain to people what the technology can bring to them, to their life. We see that in another domain, we have discussion and debate in Europe around the health impact and the environmental impact of the 5G technology. In France, we want to be able to develop it as fast as possible, but we cannot deny that there are debates within the society. So I think that we have to be aware of it, especially for those that are optimistic, like as I am, and for those who believe in progress and technology. And we will see how this will unfold in the coming years, months and years. But I think that we have the change won't go back, and I think that we won't go back to the society and to the tools and to the relationship with technology that we had before the crisis, that we had before the confinement. Difficult to know today how exactly this will evolve, because the COVID-19 crisis is not over, because those are change within the society, and it's always taking time. It's always taking time, and you only see the result on the long term. So I think that this is, to some extent, a really thrilling period to be lived, and a historical period to be lived, both for the society, unfortunately, but it is really interesting as far as technology is concerned.
Well, absolutely. So thank you, Minister Cedric O, the Digital Minister of France, for that Q&A session and for addressing very important issues for us. So the COVID-19 crisis for many has pressed the reset button with significant implications for every country, for every industry, for every individual, as it posed challenges for forward operations. New opportunities not present previously might have materialized in this COVID-19 world, and governments and organizations need to be better prepared as they continuously monitor for those opportunities. And this is because for countries and governments, their citizens, and maybe for businesses, their consumers, need help navigating this new terrain as they move from the initial shock of the COVID-19 and then to recovery and then to post-COVID-19 in a new normal world. And they could really use the help of digital transformation to make that pivot. And so perhaps key takeaways from this session are that, along that journey, some essential points, some essential concepts that we need to visit are, inclusion, innovation with purpose maybe, or responsible digital transformation. That is a wrap for this session, for this open session on digital social innovation. I'd like to thank Monsieur Cedric O for taking the time out of his busy schedule to participate in this very meaningful session. Hopefully next time when travel is more free for us, post-COVID-19, he can be here with us to join us. I'd like to thank the World Knowledge Forum for opening up this platform for us to have this meaningful discussion despite these challenging times. And I'd like to thank each and every one of you for being here and taking part. Thank you, and all of you watching via the live streaming service as well. Thank you.